On my recent workhouse video, I asked if you guys wanted an update video on SHLL, Hyliion stock, and to let me know by hitting 1500 likes on the video. Unfortunately guys, we did not hit 1500 likes. We smashed it and surpassed over 4,500 likes on that video, and that actually set a record on the channel. Honestly guys, I can't thank you enough for the support. That's truly inspirational for me, and it truly motivates me here to keep going, keep chugging out videos for you guys, because the support you've shown me is absolutely unbelievable and I appreciate it. So thank you so much for that. Now this may be asking for a lot, but let's try to break that record here on this video. We've hit 4,500 there on that video. That was the most in the channel's history. So can we surpass that in this video? I'll leave it up to you guys. Okay, so let's start off this video by looking at how Hyliion stock sits at here today. This is a chart from TradingView which shows us the moving averages as well, and this generally is a rough guideline we can use to see if a stock has moved too far, too fast, and is due for a pullback. We can see that back in late June, the hype around Hyliion started, and that's when the stock had a massive run up, hitting over $34 a share at one point. Ever since that peak, we've seen a slow and steady decline, with the stock now sitting at under $20 per share. But what's very interesting is that the stock has found some support on the 50 moving average on the daily chart, which is generally a good level of support for stocks, and clearly we can see Hyliion stock consolidating here at this level. Now does this mean that we're ready to bounce off of this level and get back to the highest, or does this mean we can break the support and continue lower? I know what the answer that most of you are waiting to hear and hoping to hear is, but unfortunately I don't think that it's likely that we're going to be bouncing off this and making new all-time highs anytime soon. In fact, I think we have a good possibility here of just continuing to trade in this range around, $20 or so for the next little while. Let me explain why. The merger between Tortoise Acquisition and Hyliion is set to happen sometime later in Q3, and this is when the official symbol change from SHLL to HYLN occurs, but there's still no set date. It's just expected sometime later in this quarter, and most likely, in my opinion, will come towards the end of the quarter, probably in September. If that holds true, this means that we can remain in this kind of limbo consolidation phase until there's some good news that comes in here saying the merger's closed, the ticker symbol is not converted over, and that could be the catalyst to actually start sending us higher. This, in my opinion, could truly test investors' patience, because it's going to be another month or so of possible sideways or slowly downward movements, and if you're holding the stock for a quick turnaround, you may be in for a very boring ride for the foreseeable future. But at the same time, I gotta flip over the question to you. If you bought into SHLL stock, you should really be reevaluating your position at this point. Try to figure out, now that all the hype has really died down, is this really a business that you still believe in, that you still has huge potential? Because guys, I'll tell you this, when I looked into this business even further, I know from my previous videos, I kind of touched upon it, I looked on the bullish cases, and I gave you guys my opinion on it, but when I actually sat down and thought about the future of this business, that's when I started having some doubt come into my mind, and that's what I really want to focus on in this video. Now, I may be wrong, I may be right, but it's just my opinion. And I know many of you are holding the stock today, so I'm going to try to be sensitive here with how I present the information, but what I really do want to focus on is the facts, and I'm going to give you some of my opinions here and there as well. Take it for how you will, don't take it personally though, it's just how I see the business today. So let's start now with the valuation on Hyliion, or SHLL really, the stock that's trading here today, and it's at a $563 million market cap at a share price of $19.33 a share. On the merger, they will have around 161.6 million shares, making the valuation of the business at today's share price at around $3.12 billion. So in other words, buying the stock today at around, just under $20 per share means you're paying a valuation of just over $3 billion. This could be good or bad depending on your perspective, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Now, Hyliion themselves had a chart here looking at the expected enterprise value based on expected 2024 EBITDA with a 8x multiple. But we can see the valuation today is already sitting in the range of 3.5 to 2.1 billion with a 25% plus or minus range. So if you believe that in 4 years the company can hit these targets the business has set out, then you're getting a pretty fair value here today. But now here's my concern, and this is something I kind of brushed over in my previous videos, and I really want to double down on and focus on here today. Now here you can see estimates, and this is really optimism, and it's great, and it's predicting earnings 4 years out. But as of today, Hyliion is expected to pull in around $1 million this year based on 20 hybrid electric units sold, but they won't be realizing any profits from this just yet. Next year is more of the same expected. 300 units projected to be sold, bringing in $8 million in revenue and $2 million in gross profits. 2022 is when the real business kicks into effect, because that's when their fully trucks will be ready to be sold. That's when they'll be expecting 2,500 units to be sold, along with 4,100 hybrid units with the snap-ons, resulting in a projected $344 million in revenue and just under $100 million in gross profits. 2022 is expected to be really the year the business really shines, and when all the bullish theses that you hear out there for this company comes into play. From then on out, it's all gravy. 16,500 total units projected in 2023, with over $1 billion in revenue and $321 million in gross profits. And finally, their last year estimate here, 2024, with 34,500 total units and over $2 billion in revenue and $750 million in gross profits. You'll also notice that as they scale, margins should improve, making them more and more profitable. And here's where the bulls really get super excited with an investment in Hyliion. That $2 billion in revenue expected in 2024 will only be around 2.2% of the $94 billion addressable market. So guys, the market is huge here, but keep in mind Hyliion's plan eventually is to sell their fully trucks, and this is where the concern starts arising. So what other companies do you think out there that are focused on building fully electric or fully hydrogen trucks? Of course, the two that come to mind are Nikola and Tesla. Tesla plans to have their Tesla semi-truck fully ramped up before Hyliion can even get one on the road. So this is where my concerns start to creep in, and this is where I really have to start asking some tough questions here with the business. One, will Hyliion be able to compete with companies like Tesla and Nikola? Two, is there enough room in this market for multiple players? And three, can Hyliion be the leader in this, clean electric, hybrid, hydrogen, whatever you want to call it, space in the future? Now, if you know my investments in general, if you're part of my VIP membership group, you know this for sure. I like to focus on the number one player in the space typically, and if I can't get that at a good valuation, I'll look for a number 2 or number 3 player. But generally, my first preference for any segment really is to get the best of the best in that sector. Let me give you an example. If you're looking at the restaurant space, right? If you look at the best company in the restaurant space, I would say it'll probably be McDonald's. Some may argue Starbucks is also the best, but I mean, that's kind of subjective. I think McDonald's is the best there. So I have a good exposure to McDonald's in my portfolio. Now, I do also find that Starbucks is a great value and a great business, so I also hold that business as well. But my first preference, if I had to pick one of the two companies, would be McDonald's. That's what I mean by I like to focus on the dominant player in any industry. Now, when I ask myself these 3 questions about Hyliion, there is some doubt that starts creeping into my mind. So number one, yes, while I do think that Hyliion will be able to compete with Tesla, Nikola, and some other companies that may come out that release these kind of future clean energy trucks, I do believe that because they're only going to start really producing and selling these later on, while these other competitors are going to have them on the road already at that point, it's going to put them in a position where they're already second or third in the market. This is going to be pretty much an uphill battle for them, and I think it's going to be a tough battle for them to actually win, especially when you have companies like Tesla with huge brands, production, scalability, all that stuff figured out, and they really want to double down in that space as well. So I think it's going to be tough for Hyliion, but I do think that they are going to be able to compete in this space. And that kind of brings me to my second question. Is there room for more than one player? Yes, I do think that there is. I do think that Hyliion can fit in this market. The market is fairly large, so they can come in and grab a decent portion of this market and be fairly competitive there as well. However, my third question, can Hyliion be the leader in this space? That is where I'm going to have to say I don't think that they can. I think that because of the competitors here, because they're going to be a few years behind when they release their trucks, I think that the competitors are going to have enough of a footing, enough of a kind of distance really between Hyliion and themselves that it's going to be near impossible for Hyliion to really take that #1 spot at some point. So really, my honest opinion here with them being a potential leader in the space is no. You gotta ask yourself, with Tesla starting production of their Tesla semis next year, 2021, how many customers are really gonna wait for that Hyliion truck, which is expected to be released years after that point? I don't know, guys, but I don't think that's a very strong story to make here for Hyliion. Look at it from a company's perspective, right? Like, they can go purchase a Tesla truck as soon as it's released, maybe in a year or so, and start realizing savings right away. Now, on the website, Hyliion does show a comparison really between their trucks and Tesla and Nikola and kind of the cost of ownership and all that kind of stuff. But since the cost really of all these trucks is more or less the same, at least the unit cost, it's going to be a very hard argument to not go with Tesla and wait a few more years for Hyliion to come out to go with them. And Tesla has already built out their supercharging network, guys, and they've been doing this for years, so they're a lot more flexible and reliable at this time, and that's something that customers are going to look at, especially large customers that have massive fleets. And really, it may seem like I'm hating on Hyliion right now. I'm being very pessimistic on Hyliion. And that's not the case, guys. I still like Hyliion as a business. However, I do want to show you a different perspective here. And I want to show you that maybe it's not as good as it seems. Maybe the potential isn't as large as we initially thought. And when we think about how they plan to execute over many, many years, it actually puts them in a position where they may not be able to benefit as much as I initially thought they would. And I covered in previous videos. Now, that being said, I think that the true potential really with Hyliion, if you're investing in the business today, is with their snap-ons that they offer for trucks to convert a traditional diesel, dirty energy, all that kind of stuff, old age truck to a more efficient, clean energy truck here today, just by snapping on Hyliion's product. This is where I think Hyliion really needs to double down on, because this is where I think the uniqueness of the company lies, and this gives them a kind of a head start, if you will, on the competition to convert some customers to their platform. So let's lay out this scenario, right? So I kind of think about it. If you think of a large logistics company, UPS, for example, right? They have thousands of trucks on the road here today. And all those trucks, for the most part, are using a dirty energy, using diesel, right? So what Hyliion could do is go in and, make a deal with UPS and be like, hey guys, so, the world's shifting to more clean energy. You want to be perceived as a clean energy company. One way we can achieve that here today is by purchasing these snap-ons for your trucks. You just put that on, it'll make it a hybrid, it'll make it more efficient, it'll make it clean. You guys can advertise yourselves now as a cleaner energy company, and it's kind of a win-win situation for both companies. And guess what? Maybe a few years from now, you're happy with the performance and the results from this hybrid snap-on that you want to convert your trucks to fully trucks and be more efficient, have longer distances to drive on one tank and have better performance, and of course see yourself as a 100% clean energy company. That's when you can go and shift over to our fully trucks. And guess what? If you sign up today, we'll give you a discount, and we'll also give you priority in the queue so that when those trucks are produced, you'll be one of the first customers to receive those trucks. That is how I think this company should be approaching this. I do believe, like I said before, in their management team. I think they have a strong management team. I think they have a smart CEO. And I think this is something they really should double down and consider, because it'll put them in a position where they build these relationships now. So even though Tesla comes out with their truck, Nikola comes out with their truck, these companies have a partnership already with Hyliion at that point. And they're like, you know what, Tesla, sorry, but we've already converted our trucks to hybrid. And we're actually pretty happy with the performance, and we're going to be going with the Hyliion trucks in a year or so when those are released. If Hyliion can execute on that and kind of go down that approach, I think they can actually have potential to be a massive company in the future. And as we saw, this market is huge, so if they can capture 10-20% of that market, this will make for a pretty large company. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section down below whether you agree with my thoughts here, my thought process on, how I think Hyliion should approach this situation. Do you think that they should really focus right now on these snap-ons, or should they just kind of put that off to the side while they focus heavily on their hydrogen trucks? Let me know in the comment section down below, and of course, let me know what your position with SHLL Hyliion stock is here today. I'd love to hear from you guys. And remember, we're trying to break a record on this channel. 4,500 likes if possible. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one.